All the reported cases of the Ebola virus disease in Nigeria have their roots in the index case, and that's the late Mr. Patrick Sawyer. These, among other factors, according to the Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchichukwu, is an indication that so far Nigeria has contained the outbreak. It's on that cherry note that I welcome you to Health News. I'm Yomi Otaigbe. The number of people that have survived the Ebola virus in Nigeria is also a source of joy, although this joy cannot wipe out the pains of those lost to the disease. 7 people have been discharged and now free from the virus. In the search for definitive treatment or cure for Ebola, different experimental drugs have surfaced, including Zitmap from the United States and Evigan from Japan. Nigeria's Ebola treatment group has also been looking at the various options from within and outside the country. How far has the group gone? My guest on the program is the Director General of the Nigerian Institute for Medical Research, who is also the co-chair of Nigeria's Ebola treatment group, Professor Innocent Uja. To stay with us on Health News. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Health News.
Thank you very much.
You are a member of the Ebola treatment group. What's the mandate of this group?
A mandate is to do a literature review of what is already on ground. Look at claims that people are making, because people may make claims. Conduct, as appropriate, any research into Ebola virus disease, and also to advise government as appropriate.
Okay, you say it is to look into what is already on ground.
Yes, that's right.
So what would you say is already on ground as regards, with regards to the Ebola treatment?
Well, you know that Ebola did not start today. Ebola was first of all discovered in 1976. That's about 38 years ago. And ever since then, people have been working on it. People have been researching in it. People have tried to develop drugs against either the treatment or the vaccine. As you know, no virus, to the best of my knowledge, can be cured at the moment. What we do is to prevent, and that is through immunization, development of vaccines. And therefore, these things, studies, literature, published work had been going on for a very long time. And we needed to look at what is it that had been published. Those who had the experience 38 years ago in the management of and control of Ebola in DRC Congo.
It's been about 3 weeks that this committee was set up.
Yes, that is correct.
So how far have you gone? What, in specific terms, have you looked into?
Well, I think that what we are saying is to say that when I say we are doing a literature review, that is something, i.e. publications that have been done, that work had been done.
On what?
On Ebola, either drugs or vaccines. And I've told you that right now there is no drug that can cure Ebola. It's not known. And there is no vaccine that can prevent Ebola. So obviously that is part of our work. If we had not done a literature review, we wouldn't have done that. The second thing is that we're saying that all those who are laying claims to either cure or treatment, you can say I've put cure or treatment. There's a difference between treatment and cure of Ebola by Nigerians. They should submit their claims.
Okay, so how many of these claims have you got?
Let me tell you that at the moment, those that we have asked, at least those who have, we've got, there are over 12, and there are more are coming. This morning I received 2 or 3 calls, and I said they should take them to NIPRID, because NIPRID deals with the raw materials, i.e. plants and products. That is the job of NIPRID. They will look at the pharmacognosy of it and the pharmacology, because they will look at the plants, characterize the plants, and then see, when you then look at further, they will then study the efficacy and the toxicity of the plants before if it is plants. And that is where we think that we need to verify. And we have the facility in NIPRID to do that.
There's been so much talk about bitter cola. While addressing this, tell us about the other things that the committee is working on?
Bitter kola, Maurice will never say that bitter kola cures Ebola. He never said so, and he has said it. I've read his interview with Guardian. We met. He has never. He said that when he did a study on in vitro, in vitro, that means on tissues, on cells, that they could inhibit, the Ebola virus. And you know that there are stages of research. You have the in vitro one, before you go to the primates, that's to the animals, before you then go to the human beings. And with the human beings, when the safety, the effectiveness of this drug had probably been demonstrated in primates, then you then move to human beings. And human beings would then have four stages. We have 4 phases of research, of clinical trials. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Before you could say, well, fine, this drug is now okay for use by human beings. And that's why WHO came out to say, look, because of the emergency situation that we find ourselves, experimental drugs can be used. That's why that word experimental is very, very important. And let's be clear about this. We must be very clear about this, that yes, Ebola is an emergency, but the process of either treating or curing is not something that you can do overnight. And we should not deceive ourselves. They must necessarily go through the processes. The WHO has given a leeway. But even then, where the WHO had said that we could use experimental drugs to treat, I tell you that if you do that with a patient without his or her consent, you are in trouble. I'm sure you still remember the Trovan drugs of the Kanu meningitis treatment. Because, you see, at the moment, emotion probably would have taken over our sense of reasoning. And therefore, they would believe that we should be able to get drugs, get vaccines today. It doesn't work that way. And even where we have drugs, to administer it to any patient, the patient must agree and must sign, not even informed consent, written consent. And to some extent, the National Health Research Ethics Committee must give approval to it. And therefore, there must be processes. Otherwise, we will not be protected.
Okay, so it would be safe to say that some people have come up with perhaps herbal preparations or even medications that they have submitted to the committee?
Well, they have, but I've not seen, because we have said that they should deposit them and be properly catalogued, in NIPRID. Because, you see, if you don't catalog these things, tomorrow somebody may come out and say, no, you have mixed his own with the other person. And we need to be very careful about this.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, what the next step is to advertise for claims, for claimants, so that nobody will say we have shut the door to him or her. We want to open the door, because it is possible. In science, there are possibilities, but the likelihood is a different thing. So we open our doors to all claimants. Let them come. The only thing that we will not be able to verify is prayers. We will not be able to verify prayers. So if you say you pray for people to get well, we cannot verify that.
Professor, I'm sure you have heard about different companies coming up with Ebola experimental drugs. The recent one is the Avigan. What's your take on this?
Well, that is, in my opinion, that is a progressive approach, because we must respond to disease conditions. So if people are trying to produce either drugs or vaccine, that is just like HIV. When HIV came out, there were no drugs, and it was what? Like a death sentence. But today, people are living very well on antiretroviral drugs. So if we have, eventually, if we are able to get drugs that can contain this deadly virus, then it's a positive development. If eventually we have vaccines against this virus, then it's a great achievement. Because, issue even like yellow fever, we had that. We had smallpox previously. And so if even the issue of guinea worm. So these are diseases that will come, they are emerging, and they are emerging diseases. Anything that we can do to ensure that people do not die from the virus, by the infection, I believe that it's a welcome addition. But as you know, while we're doing that, the processes of refining and perfecting the treatment options and then the vaccines are on. As I'm talking to you, they are probably assembling scientists on clinical trials that probably would give us maybe a headway in the future. But what I said, and I repeat, is that we shouldn't be pressured to say we must do this today. It will not work that way.
Okay.